How to write good objectives of the study for a research paper. Objectives of the study is often the specific aims or goals that the researcher hopes to accomplish at the end of a specific research work. Clear, quantifiable, realistic, pertinent, and time-bound objectives are essential to be set at the primary stage of every academic project. They serve as an instrument that would guide the researcher all through the project work. The objectives of the study are usually placed in the first chapter after the background and the problem statement. Here are some general rules to consider if you intend to write a good objectives of the study for a research paper. Bear in mind the number of objectives you want to achieve. The researcher must set a reasonable number of objectives the study intends to achieve at the end of the research. The objectives must not be too much, and they are not encouraged to be too few. A number between 4, 4, and 6, 6, or even 8, are considered to be okay by most tertiary institutions in the globe. You must note that the more objectives you have, the more ground you have to cover, and the more bulky your work is expected to be. Researchers are encouraged to use action verbs. Most research professors encourage researchers to use action verbs to describe and start the objectives. This makes them more specific and measurable. For example, instead of saying, "to understand the impact of," use the action verb, "to assess the impact of." Other action verbs suitable for use in writing objectives of the study includes to determine, to examine, to analyze, to identify, to evaluate, to measure, to investigate, to find out, etc. It is always encouraged that researchers should not congest their work with the same action verbs. They are to be used interchangeably. Be specific. Objectives should be specific and clearly defined. Avoid vague or general statements. For example, instead of saying, "to examine the factors that influence employee motivation," specify the factors that you will examine, such as, "to identify the relationship between employee rewards and motivation." Objectives should be measurable, so you can determine whether you have achieved them or not. Make the objectives realistic and relevant. Objectives should be achievable within the time frame and resources available. Avoid setting unrealistic objectives that cannot be accomplished within the scope of the study. Also, should be relevant to the research question and the overall aim of the study. They should address the specific issues that the study aims to investigate. Be time-bound and achievable. Objectives should have a specific timeline for completion. This helps to keep the study on track and ensures that the objectives are achieved within a specific time frame. The researchers should also ensure that they set objectives that are feasible. The researcher should have done enough relevant groundwork on the topic to ensure that relevant primary or secondary sources exist. Also ensure that you have access to relevant research facilities, laboratories, library resources, research databases, internet sources, etc. Utilize the dependent and independent variables on your topic. When formulating your objectives, you should ensure that you test each of your dependent variable, S, on the independent variables. Also, the variables can be broken down and tested as it gives opportunity to cover the crux of the topic.